G'day fellow walkabouters, welcome back. My name is Simon. If you're new here, this channel is all about motorcycles, adventure, camping and touring, or Mad Cat as I like to call it. So today I wanted to talk about the Rise of the Phoenix tour, which is drawing to a close. And in fact, by the time this video comes out, you will probably have seen the last episode last week or the week before. And I thought, what a perfect thing to be able to wrap it up, tell you all about it, and tell you about some of the things that I learned while I was on the Rise of the Phoenix tour, because I learned lots of different things with it. And I thought it would be a good time to talk about those, because at the end of the day, the Rise of the Phoenix Tour Series 1 was all about learning more about travelling longer distance and being away for extended periods of time. And as such, because I was on the road for multiple weeks and I travelled, I don't know, somewhere around 7,000 kilometres or something. I'll put that up on the screen when I work it out exactly how many kilometres I travelled. I figured it was a good chance to learn about multi-week motorcycle tours and, you know, doing longer distance stuff. And I came away from that with three main takeaways, really. Three main things that I learned from doing that trip. Isn't it pretty out here with all of these jacaranda trees? I thought I'd actually take a spin down through town along one of the main roads that's just full of jacarandas, and this road leads straight to it, though I'd better slow down to 50 because I don't want a speeding fine. There we go, cruise control, wonderful stuff. So one of the first things that I learned about it was, firstly, before you even think about going to do a long distance motorcycle tour over multiple days, multiple weeks, and multiple thousands of kilometres, make sure you set up the comfort levels for your ride before you leave. Now, I knew that the seat on the Africa Twin, the 2020 model seat, was particularly uncomfortable because I'd ridden the bike long enough distances to know it was uncomfortable. And what I should have done before I went on the trip was had it reupholstered, had it redone so it was more comfortable with multiple densities of foam layers and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, I didn't do it before I left. And because of that, I ended up in pain several days on long rides. And that takes a lot of the fun and joy out of doing long rides, because you're in pain, you know, and that's, yeah, there's no fun in that whatsoever. So I had my seat, when I got back, I had my seat off and I posted it up to the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and I sent it up to Phoenix Seats, and I had them completely gut the seats, reupholster them with dual density foam layers in there and a grip top cover, which means that you don't end up sliding around so much on the seat. Not that the Honda Genuine seat had a bad grip factor, that was quite good, but the foam layers in there were absolutely abhorrent, absolutely horrible. So number one, before you go, sort out your comfort on your bike first, because you're going to be spending a lot of time on your bike when you do a long distance tour. Comfort is very important for that. You can see all the jacaranda trees way off in the distance over there. Grafton is known as Jacaranda City because it's full of jacarandas, quite obviously, as you can see here. And this is such a pretty road into town because of all the jacarandas. Anyway, Number 2. Another important takeaway from the Rise of the Phoenix Series 1 was don't try and bite off more than you can chew. I did want to go down to Tasmania and do some touring around there and that sort of thing. However, as it was, I ran out of time to finish everything I wanted to finish on my tour. If I'd tried to do Tasmania on top of that, I would have been absolutely stuffed. I would not have gotten anywhere near where I wanted to go to. So realistically, you need to look at planning smaller segments for your tour. You need to plan everything out. I mean, I don't plan things to, to the nth degree. I don't plan things perfectly because obviously you've got to be flexible enough to be able to change if there's a road closed or if you see something that you want to stop and spend more time looking at, like looking at the jacaranda trees or whatever. Like when I stopped in Glenrowan, I stopped there for 3 days because I was interested in the history of the area. So I spent more time there. When I went to Thredbo, because the weather was really crap on one of the days, I ended up spending 3 nights there as well because I didn't get to do what I wanted to do on the first full day that I had there because of the weather. So it's important to only bite off as much as you can chew. Look at these beautiful jacarandas. Isn't this gorgeous? This whole road all the way down as far as you can see. And when I say don't bite off more than you can chew, realistically, guys, any more than 300 to 400 kilometers in a day is probably too much. Because while you can do much, much longer kilometers if you want to or if you have to, one, the comfort level for you sitting on the bike for so long drops significantly once you hit a certain number of kilometers. I mean, of course, the new seat on the bike will make a long distance ride a lot more comfortable for me. But some of the things that people don't take into account is when you're traveling along in a cage, in a car, you can eat and you can drink while you're driving. You can have a smoke if you smoke while you're driving. If you're traveling on a motorbike, you're wearing a helmet, and hopefully you're wearing a full face helmet. And when you're traveling along on your motorbike, if you want to eat, you want to drink, or you want to have a smoke, you have to stop. I mean, even with a full face, with a modular helmet where you can lift up the chin bar, you're not going to be eating and drinking while you're riding, at 100 kilometers an hour, because otherwise you're going to wear everything. It's just going to be splattered everywhere. I just thought I'd have a look at the park here. I never really had a look at this park. It's very pretty. So if you're riding along and you want to stop and eat and drink, that's fine. But if you're trying to cover 600 or 700 kilometers in a day, you might need to stop and eat and drink a couple of times during that day. And that takes time. It all takes time. And if you don't take the time to do that, you run the serious risk of ending up dehydrated at the end of your day and hungry, and quite possibly driving yourself to having an accident because you're dehydrated and you're hungry, and therefore, that becomes quite dangerous. I think quite sadly that a lot of people don't take into account actually having adequate brakes off the bike. Riding a motorcycle isn't something you can take lightly. You have to plan to take adequate breaks, because generally speaking, you're wearing heavy gear that it has limited airflow through it, so you get hotter. You're not drinking constantly while you're riding, which means that you dehydrate quicker, and the airflow that you are getting is evaporating any sweat off your body, so you're not necessarily noticing how quickly you're dehydrating. And it's very important to make sure that you do take adequate breaks off your bike, especially when you're trying to do longer kilometres, longer days, longer runs, especially when the temperature is high. And when's the most common time to ride a motorcycle? In most places, spring and summer, when the temperatures are generally higher and when it's very easy to dehydrate. And on top of that, not eating enough, so therefore your blood sugar levels dropping. Whether you're diabetic or not, and I'm not diabetic, but your blood sugar level drops too far, and then you end up with problems because you feel fatigued. And again, riding a motorcycle feeling fatigued is very, very dangerous. So definitely plan to take lots of breaks. And I tell people, you know, I look at now no more than 3, maybe 400 kilometres in a day. Because if you try and do too long a day, you're just going to put yourself in danger. And by putting yourself in danger, you put other people in danger. And that's not something that you should be doing ever. And I think it's very important that people realise that you can't travel massive long distances on a motorbike the same as what you can do in a car. I heard of people saying, I want to go to Broken Hill from Sydney, but I've only got 3 days. What should I see when I'm in Broken Hill? Well, firstly, you can't ride from Sydney to Broken Hill and have a 3-day trip and enjoy anything. Because your first day, even if you're in a car, your first day is going to be 12 to 15 hours. It's a very long way. When you get there, if you're on a motorbike, you're going to be absolutely shattered. That's if you even survive the ride, because you're going to be riding in the dark for a chunk of it, and there's wild goats, there's cattle, there's kangaroos, there's emus, and all sorts of things coming out onto the road in front of you while you're riding in the dark. So don't even think about that. And people think that they can cover, you know, 12 to 1500 kilometres on the bike the same they can in a car. You can't. It's not possible. As much as we like to think we're capable of doing this, I've seen posts on forums where people say, oh, I can do 1,000 kilometres in a day, so easy, rah, rah, rah. Yeah, okay. You crack on and do that, enjoy, but I don't want to be on the same road near you when you're doing that, because it's just dangerous. So take smaller chunks. 200 to 300 kilometres, maybe 400 kilometres in a day is a smaller chunk. And when I say that, what you can do is you can plan your day out better. So you ride along and you find a place like this pretty little park here, where there's beautiful places to stop and sit, enjoy some lunch, have a nice cold drink and relax. And you see some pretty places where there's, for instance, all of the jacaranda trees up here, and you think, wow, this is a pretty little town, let's ride through it and spend an hour exploring. And you can do that. And then you can get back onto the main road and you can ride. Feeling refreshed, feeling good to do the next 100 kilometres or whatever you're going to do. If you ride 1,000 kilometres in a day, good on you. But how much of the road, or how much of the country are you actually seeing? You're seeing a lot of the road, and you're seeing the stuff, 20 metres either side of the road. But are you seeing anything else? Really? I don't think you are. That's the problem, is you're not seeing anything else but the road, because the amount of time you have to spend on it to cover the distance that you're covering in one day. In the last 10 years, I've driven probably 3 million kilometres in work vehicles. How much of that have I seen? I mean, look, I've seen a lot of places. I drove through Central Australia and doing the same roads every day. It's amazing how much you can look out at because you know the road well enough and you know how it reacts to things and how you react to things and you know your vehicles. But that was also out in the middle of the desert where there's no oncoming traffic. The biggest thing I had to worry about was running into a camel. That's a whole different story. So, takeaway number 2, don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Travel smaller amounts each day. Enjoy and see more of the area you're travelling through by travelling shorter distances each day. Takeaway number 3 from the Rise of the Phoenix Tour Series 1 is to pack less and pack better. Now, I learned a lot of things about packing the bike on my trip, and one of the things that I realised is that you have to be able to pack better. You have to be able to pack heavier things down low, quite obviously, because you don't want to raise your centre of gravity on the bike any higher than you need to. One of the things that came from my tour was adding things like the top box behind me and the tank bag. I didn't have those prior to the tour, and that's absolutely fine, but I did learn that I needed to change the way that I packed things. So on my trip I carried 4 days worth of clothing. So 4 pairs of boxers, 4 pairs of socks, 4 t-shirts and a pair of jeans and riding pants. My jacket was the one that I'm wearing right now, and I had the liners, the waterproof liner and the thermal layer to go in that, which wasn't quite enough when I was in Thredbo in the cold, but that's okay. And I added the top box into the mix when I was on my way back, and the video for that was the service day / Ducati Multistrada day, etc. And I picked it up really cheap, and I was quite happy with that for the trip back up to home because it allowed me to pack things a little bit differently. However, I do have a different top box that will be on the bike very, very soon, and that top box is an aluminium one, because I thought about the plastic one that I've got right now, and I thought, how's it going to stand up longer term? Oh, gee whiz, nearly got hit by that bird. How's it going to stand up longer term on multi-continent journeys? And I thought, no, the plastic one, it might be okay, but it might not. So I went and I got the aluminium one, which has a proper solid aluminium mount bracket that bolts onto the bike, onto the rear grab bar, etc. So the reason why I got the top box is because things like the drone and cameras and camera equipment, etc., can go into there. Things like snacks and food and so on can go into there. Other things that are quicker to grab hold of, such as GoPro batteries, can go into the tank bag. So it's a matter of changing the way that I pack the bike. I'm yet to get hold of some crash bar bags. I want to do that so that I can put the tools for the bike down there, and maybe a couple of other things that, you know, that I don't need to access very often. But what it also gives me is a little bit more side protection on the front of the bike should I end up dropping the bike at any point. And the panniers themselves will then have all the camping gear, cooking gear, food, you know, heavier items, that sort of stuff, packed down as low as they can go. Because at the end of the day, I don't want any weight up high if I can avoid it, but I also want to put the most breakable things into the top box. Because my drone comes in a package that is, I don't know, well, the bag that it comes in, I'll put a picture of it up on the screen. But realistically, between that and the computer that I carried with me, that took up the whole of my left pannier, bar a couple of other small things that I could jam into the gaps there. And well, actually, sorry, the computer itself just took up the whole pannier because I had that in a hard plastic box. However, with the top box, I can package it differently and put it up there where it's out of the way, meaning that the whole left pannier can be used for other stuff, which is using the space that I've got more wisely. And whether that means that I can carry a second pair of jeans and, you know, a second, like an extra pair of shorts or something like that for around camp, makes a difference, because my comfort level when I get into a camp needs to be higher. So, you know, packing things in a slightly different way can make a massive difference. And they say that pack everything that you think you need to take, and then take out half of it and throw it away. And then take everything that's left and pack it onto the bike, and then take out half of that and throw that away. I mean, there's a certain number of things that I must take with me. Obviously, the cameras need batteries, they need charging systems, that sort of thing. The computer needs charging systems and so on. The drone needs batteries and charging systems and so on. That takes up space, but that's equipment that I'm going to have to carry because I want to keep producing YouTube videos for you guys. So as such, that space that I need to accommodate, space that I need to keep just for those things. You know, I take a lot of photographs just on my phone because I don't need to carry other cameras with me just for that. I do have a good still camera, but to be honest, my phone probably gets photos that are just as good as it. The big difference with the still camera is the zoom ability. My phone has, I think, 9 times optical zoom, and it'll do 30 times zoom using digital zoom, whereas the camera has 45 times optical zoom. And optical zoom is that bit before it starts to pixelate, and so that makes it important to have that zoom ability, you know, being able to look at the trees on the hill line before you know, lose it all to pixels. Anyway, so packing is the number 3 takeaway from the trip. Pack down smaller, pack down lighter, and change the way you pack to put the heaviest things as far down the bike as you can to lower the center of gravity. So guys, look, at the end of the day, number 1, make sure your comfort is sorted out. Get your bike adjusted properly first. Get your brake, your clutch, lever, etc. adjusted to the point where they're comfortable for you to rest your fingers on while you're riding. I probably need to take that clutch down ever so slightly further as well. Get your seat redone if that's what you need to do. I think that's where I need to go into there. And once you've managed to do that, then that's number 1 taken care of, sorting out your comfort level, particularly on the bike comfort level. Number 2, don't bite off more than you can chew. Only plan to travel smaller distances. And when you plan to travel smaller distances, you get to see more of where you are and where you're going. And number 3, pack smarter. Pack lighter, pack smaller. So folks, that's my takeaways from the Rise of the Phoenix Series 1, from doing however many thousand kilometres it was, and I'll put that up on the screen. I'll even put up what my fuel usage was and all that sort of thing for you. And hopefully you guys have got something out of this video today. If you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up, liking the video, subscribing down below, and share the video to anyone else you think might be planning on doing a long distance trip like that. And until next time, ride safe.